The dancing plague of 1518. In the summer of 1518, a woman stepped into a narrow street in the city of Strasbourg and began to dance. There was no music, no festival, no crowd celebrating around her. And the woman did not appear happy. Her movements looked uncontrolled, almost as if her body no longer belonged to her. For hours, she continued moving across the hard cobblestones. Her face showed exhaustion. Her feet began to hurt. Eventually, her body collapsed. But after resting for only a short time, she stood up and started dancing again. The woman would later become known in historical accounts as Frau Trophäa. At first, the people watching her may have believed that she was ill, confused, or perhaps performing some strange religious act. But within days, something terrifying began to happen. Other people joined her, not because they wanted to celebrate, not because musicians were playing. They simply began to move. One person became several. Several became dozens. Soon, the streets of Strasbourg were filled with men and women dancing as if they were trapped inside their own bodies. Some moved for hours. Others reportedly continued for days, stopping only when exhaustion forced them to the ground. Their feet became swollen and injured. Their clothes were soaked with sweat. Some cried out in pain. Others appeared almost unaware of the people surrounding them. And even after collapsing, some of them stood up and began moving again. The city was witnessing something it could not understand. The physicians of Strasbourg were asked to explain the strange outbreak. But medicine in the early 16th century was very different from medicine today. Doctors believed that the dancers were suffering from overheated blood. They concluded that the illness could only end if the victims were allowed to continue dancing until the strange heat left their bodies. The city authorities followed their advice. Instead of stopping the dancers, officials decided to help them dance. A wooden stage was prepared. Large spaces were cleared. Professional musicians were reportedly hired to play drums, pipes, and other instruments. The authorities believed that continuous movement would eventually cure the victims. But the decision had the opposite effect. The music attracted attention. Crowds gathered. More people began to show similar symptoms. What began with one woman had now become a public crisis. The city that tried to cure the dancers by encouraging them to dance may have helped the mysterious outbreak spread. But what could make so many people lose control of their bodies? To understand the mystery, we must understand the world in which they lived. Strasbourg had endured years of hardship. Poor harvests had caused food shortages. Hunger weakened the population. Disease moved through crowded communities where medical treatment was limited. Many families lived under extreme pressure, surrounded by poverty, illness, and uncertainty. Religious fear was also deeply powerful. People believed that saints could punish entire communities. One popular belief claimed that Saint Vitus could place a curse on people, forcing them to dance against their will. For someone living in 1518, this was not simply an old legend. It could feel like a real and immediate threat. This leads to one of the strongest explanations for the dancing plague: mass psychogenic illness. Under extreme fear and stress, the human mind can produce real physical symptoms. A person may shake, faint, feel pain, or lose control of certain movements even when no physical disease can be found. When people living under the same pressure witness someone experiencing these symptoms, fear can spread. The symptoms can then appear in others. The illness is real. The suffering is real. But its origin may be psychological rather than infectious. Could the people of Strasbourg have become trapped inside a shared state of terror? Could hunger, disease, and belief in a supernatural curse have created the perfect conditions for the dancing to spread? Many historians consider this one of the most convincing explanations. But another theory points toward something hidden inside the city's food. The people of the region depended heavily on rye bread. Under certain damp conditions, rye can become infected with a dark fungus known as ergot. Eating contaminated grain can cause a condition called ergotism. Its effects may include painful muscle contractions, convulsions, confusion, hallucinations, and serious damage to the body. Some researchers have suggested that contaminated bread caused the strange movements in Strasbourg. It is a disturbing possibility. A family could eat bread made from infected grain without knowing that it contained a powerful toxin. But the ergot theory also has serious weaknesses. Severe ergot poisoning often causes intense pain and violent convulsions. It can restrict blood circulation and make controlled movement extremely difficult. That does not easily explain people apparently dancing for long periods, or why the behavior seemed to spread through one specific community. The poisoned grain theory explains some of the symptoms, but not the entire event. As the crisis continued, the authorities finally abandoned their original plan. Music and public dancing were restricted. The stages were removed. Some of the victims were taken outside the city to a religious shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus. There, ceremonies and prayers were performed in the hope of ending the supposed curse. Then, as summer came to an end, the dancing gradually stopped. By September, the strange outbreak had largely disappeared. No single cure had clearly defeated it. No physician had identified its true cause. The phenomenon simply faded away. Later stories claimed that people died each day from strokes, heart attacks, or exhaustion. However, historians continue to debate how many people actually died. Some dramatic details may have been added or exaggerated in accounts written after the event. Even the identity and story of the first woman remain partly uncertain. But surviving records strongly suggest that a real dancing outbreak occurred, and that the authorities of Strasbourg struggled desperately to control it. More than 5 centuries later, the mystery remains. Was it caused by poisoned bread, a neurological illness, extreme psychological pressure, religious fear spreading from person to person? Or did several different factors combine to create one of the strangest events in European history? The streets of Strasbourg are silent today. The musicians are gone. The wooden stage has disappeared. The dancers have been dead for centuries. But the question remains: what could make hundreds of people dance when every movement brought them closer to collapse? This was the dancing plague of 1518. A historical event where fear became contagious, and an entire city appeared to lose control. You are watching ATHAR. Subscribe and join us as we investigate history's darkest mysteries and the secrets that still have no final answer.